Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cash Flow Positive. I'm your host, Kenny Bedwell, and I'm going to send you $250,000. What are you going to do with it? That's the episode title. I wish I could send you 250 for listening to this, but I can't. Maybe 250 pennies, but not $250,000. But what would you do if someone gave you 250 or you had $250,000 in cash to invest in a short-term rental? Where would you go? How would you approach it? So what I want to do in this episode is I brought on one of my consultants from my team, one of the best, Erin Wegrzyn. She is a consultant in Kentucky. She, also an agent in Kentucky as well. She found my Frankfort, Kentucky house. Very good at deal finding, helps a lot of our clients. And we're going to hear her story and how she would approach the situation and finding markets and what to look for. Now, keep in mind that her situation is not your situation. So she's going to talk about different markets and areas that you might not even care about. That doesn't matter though. Listen and pay attention to the methodology because that's where the real value is. All right. Well, Erin, thanks for joining us on the show today. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, so I started investing in 2016. It was kind of a family business. My brother drugged me into it. Um, Started with long-term rentals and kind of switched to burrs. Dabbled in a couple flips. Really found out what I enjoy, which happened to be short-term rentals. So I had bought a short-term rental in Frankfort, Kentucky, so on the Bourbon Trail. Nobody knows what that market is though. So just snuck on in there.
What year did you get that property?
That one was, I think, around 2018, 2019. Um, it's a smaller property, but it's right in downtown Frankfurt. So I had my own reasons for buying that one. But that was kind of my journey into short-term rentals and realized it was my passion. Realized that I really like not only finding the right property, but I do like the hospitality side of it. I like engaging with people. So it was kind of a trigger for the rest of my short term rental career. Went from being the investor of short term rentals to being the realtor of short term rentals here in Kentucky. So I specialized only in Airbnb's short term rentals, helping people locate the ones that make sense, that stand out, that cash flow. Was introduced to yourself and the team. And so transitioned out of kind of the agent role into a consultant role.
Nice. Cool. And you own STRs outside of Kentucky too, right?
I do. I classify my other one as Branson. It's actually just south of Branson. Branson's regulations are pretty strict there. But I knew that I wanted a place that my family could enjoy. So in Kentucky, it's great. It cash flows. It's nearby. I can go fix the leaking toilet, even though I don't go fix the leaking toilet. But I really wanted that place that my family gets an opportunity to like visit. And on spring break, like we don't have to plan or think about where are we going to go this year. We know we have a default and we can go down to our place just south of Branson.
Okay. Very nice. Very exciting. What's the theme park there in Branson?
Silver Dollar City.
Silver Dollar. I've been there before. It was a long
Yes.
time ago. So yeah, it's
But
very.
they have all of the shows like
Mm-hmm.
Dixie Stampede
Yep.
and I
I
mean,
remember that. Yep.
yeah, there's a lot of draws to that area for sure, especially if you have a family.
Yep. 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 We even did like one of those old timey Civil War shot, like family portraits or
Oh,
whatever.
that's so bad, Kenny. That's so bad.
uh,
Oh,
uh,
man.
yeah, in the moment, I was like, "Oh, this is like," but yeah, I just laughed at it, in the future. But yeah, it was
And
funny
it's
though.
now, like, buried in a drawer somewhere.
Yeah, there we go. My mom loved it, so love the dress up. But well, cool. That's Branson in a nutshell for you. So, um, all right. So today, and the theme of today's topic is, hey, I gift you $250,000 in cash to invest into a short term rental. What would you do? Where would you go with it? How would you approach this as an investor?
Okay. Um,
I think it's
I wanna give you a
talked
really
about this
bad
before the
answer,
show
like, I wanna
started,
say, like,
so
"I'm
like
gonna
you're
take
not
the
don't
250 and
act
I'm gonna
surprised.
disappear. I'm gonna quit my job." That's not the case, though. I guess so if I was gifted money, my priorities have changed a little bit. So whenever like I said, back in 2016, I was buying and, like, numbers and revenue were my driver. I was gosh, I guess I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm terrible with timelines, like, I'm so bad, like, time really does fly by. But I was young enough that, like, retirement mattered and, like, my cash flow, how long is it gonna take me to get there? Or, nowadays they say you really don't get to retire, like, you kinda have to work your entire life, and so I was just trying to be proactive and, like, really plan that early, um, which is why I was buying some, like, long-term holds, those long-term rentals. It's not you don't get the revenue quickly. It is truly a long game of you buy them and you buy more and more and more until finally you make just a little bit of money. But my mindset has flipped in recent years. I have 3 children, and so I was working a lot. Um, Not only I had a W-2 at the time, so not only in my W-2, but also, like, in my investments because I was rehabbing them and refinancing them out, and so my kids just weren't seeing me, and then the little bit of money I was making wasn't benefiting my family, um, and so finally it was a light switch, and I was like, "Why am I doing this?" Like, what the money's not what I really anticipated, right? It's small with long-term rentals, it's small little gains. Why am I doing this? My family doesn't benefit from it at all besides a tax advantage, but other than that, there's no benefits. And so I had decided a couple years back the next properties I buy going forward will be properties my family gets to enjoy. I have a very like family-centered like lifestyle or um I try to make it so that my decisions are based on what is best for my family. And so that was kind of the kickoff for buying the place down south of Branson is that we actually get to enjoy it. They don't see it as like mommy's work anymore, but this is our house. And yes, we allow others to stay in it, but they like my kids get to take ownership of having bedrooms there or whatever. So thinking about like where would I buy next is definitely focused on where would my family enjoy. And I know that's not everyone. Some people definitely are in it for other reasons, but for me, that's the biggest driver. I would be restricted, right? Whenever we only have 250 cash in hand, like what can we actually afford? What markets can we afford? All of the things that we discuss on the regular. Is it turnkey? Does it need remodeling? I'm done with the remodeling, guys. I'm not gonna do that anymore. Now I've done new construction. That was super fun to build it from the ground up. We can always talk about that on a different day because I love new construction. I love like nitpicking all of the little small details. But I would go buy something turnkey, probably either in like a mountains in the mountains somewhere because my kids can get out and entertain themselves and I don't have to entertain them, or on the water somewhere. Um, that way I know when we're there that even if the weather isn't perfect, they can be entertained by nature or by something on the property, and I can actually relax because as parents, man, Kenny, like, we don't get a kid like, vacation is not vacation, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
You
yeah,
you come home and need another vacation.
yeah. Seriously. So when you say turnkey, though, let's back up a little bit. When you say turnkey, what does that mean?
I don't wanna go in and do, like, a full kitchen gut. I don't care to replace a vanity. That's fine. Bathroom vanity, you pull it out, you throw a new one in. That's a matter of, like, getting my husband to throw on some gloves and spend an afternoon doing that. I don't want contractors in my house for weeks. Um, so turnkey, I guess it is that's probably a good question because it is different for everyone. Paint is fine. in my turnkey definition. A vanity is fine. That's a quick fix. Flooring is up in the air because it can take a little longer. Like, by the time they rip up flooring and put new flooring down, um, but I think that, like, most homes are gonna need paint and flooring, no matter where you buy, no matter what condition, like, they just don't wear well over time. So, I just don't want large projects. I don't want, like, adding walls, taking down walls, that kind of a project.
Yeah. Um, so what about in terms of revenue goals and ROI goals? Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I do wanna see a return. I know I've kinda downplayed that a little bit, and I'm not gonna lie, with short-term rentals, I mean, we definitely we work for it.
Mhm.
Short-term rentals are not an easy it's my long-term rentals were with a property manager, so it was mailbox money. It was pure, like, I'd wake up and I would get that check each month. When things broke, I didn't have to fix them. The management company did, and I would see a little deduction here or there. But with short-term rentals, like, they are a lot of work. And so for that, I'm not willing to take, a small return. I would hope that for me, what would make sense, like, for one property, I mean, if I could net 45, I'd be happy with that, because if you don't know, I was an occupational therapist before this. So I worked with kids with special needs, and that was kind of what I was making then. So in my eyes, if I can just replace that income, I would be okay. And if I just rinse and repeat that property after property, then I'm winning.
Okay. Um, so with that being said though, that sounds like a dream scenario, but you know how difficult that is to find. So how do you pull that off?
Oh, that's not hard at all, Kenny. We find it
Well,
every day.
you're the ones who said the criteria, so I just wanted to throw it out.
No, I know. It really isn't easy. It's not, and I think one of the biggest problems is the turnkey piece, right? Like, that is truly what I'm finding in market after market, whether we're talking Shenandoah or Kentucky, that's where I am, even Florida, like, you really don't get turnkey places anymore. I would not want Florida personally, but even, like, going to Florida, what we're saying is turnkey, that's just not even the case, because you're having to go in with amenities. In most markets, I shouldn't even say Florida, but most markets, like, STRs are so well known now, and we've got big players. Like, these people go into masterminds and these conferences, like, they know what they're doing nowadays, and so they are adding the amenities. And so even if the home is turnkey, the amenities that are needed, like, that's not it's not small projects. Adding pickleball courts or, golf simulators, like, those are pretty large expenses. Even though maybe a golf simulator is relatively easy to put in, it's a it's a big expense. Um, so
So what do you
I don't
do?
even remember your question anymore, Kenny.
No, well, the question is like, what do you do? How are you going to find that property?
Oh, that was right. Like, it being difficult, and it is, yeah. I think just staying on top of picking, I guess, picking a handful of markets. Being too specific isn't gonna allow me to find anything. Being too broad is just as hard, because trying to scan all the time, all the markets, you get a little distracted, and it can kind of blur, like, what are you really looking for? So I think, having a solid 5 markets, but being open-minded to more. So, like, I'm going to watch these 5 markets as closely as I can, but if something were to come up, or if someone were to bring me a deal outside of those, being open-minded to that will help me find that property in a timeline that makes sense. Because if not, it's gonna take a year. Um
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. Making sure that we're looking not too broad, but also, yeah, it rarely works out if we look too broad. So, or we end up finding things, but they're in like the middle of nowhere. It's just you can't. But you can't also be too specific.
Oh, I
So,
agree.
how do you define market boundaries? Like, what's that mean to you when you say like 5 markets? Like, what does a market mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question because I can give you 2 markets that, like, it's multiple counties. So, we'll go back to Kentucky, the Bourbon Trail. It's at least 5 counties. We can expand it if we really want to. Shenandoah, it's funny, I will pull, like, a property there and speak with clients, and they're like, "Well, this one seems so far out." And I'm like, "But it's not. Like, look at the whole range, and we can really expand that comp comparison much larger than what a lot of people are giving it credit for. They want this little, like, 1-mile radius, and that's not the case for that market. So I think being very educated on how big is that market. Um, we do have some very small we have smaller markets. I wanna say Destin. I know that's such a cheesy one, but, like, everyone knows Destin, and yes, it can bleed over into, like, 30A or Panama, but really Destin is its own to me, its own market. When people say they're going to Destin, they're not going to 30A or to Panama, they are going to Destin. But knowing how big and how many miles can we really expand outside of that center, county or city and going that way. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really like I'm not hunting for or a specific answer of like this is
Yeah.
the correct answer. It's more just like
Well,
how are you doing this? How would you approach it? So, well, take a step back. You got this money. You're going to pick around 5 markets or areas that you're going to be looking into. How do you find out? What's your methodology, I should say, of approaching like what it is you should be looking for in that market?
um, when I'm looking in a market, I wanna see what can my money buy me there. So if I'm restricted, if my purchase price is 650, what can I actually buy? Is it a 3-bedroom home? Is it a 4-bedroom home? Are those cash flowing? Or do I need to be large? Do I need to be at a 6, 7 bedroom? So I'm looking at bedroom count. I'm looking at what amenities are needed. So some markets you can still get away with a hot tub. Maybe now you can get fancy and add this like barrel sauna. Like that would be super fun. I don't have one of those at home. Um, get a little bougie, get that photo shot, um but or do we need to go big? Like, do we have to have the golf simulator? Do we have to have the pickleball court? Like, is that now the competition? Is that what your competition has? So for me, I'm not going to go to a market where I have to have so many amenities that, in order to even be competitive. That's not what I'm personally looking for. I don't want the upkeep of them. I'm not this one to like battle somebody, like I love just that homey comfort, like, we can go into it and know that with our hot tub and our barrel sauna, we're gonna do just fine. We can have some great design. I do think design matters. I'm a big advocate for that, but I don't wanna go into a market I personally am just not gonna go into a market that I have to have so many amenities to compete because at some point you max out. Like, how do you and let me go back too, when I go into a market, um that I can grow in. So I can start with basic amenities. I'll pick another one in my backyard. So Red River Gorge. Right now, it's a fairly new kind of market. We're seeing hot tubs. I've seen a few barrel saunas. That's it. So going into a market like that I can step into, and it is a market that because it is still close to home, but we could go for the weekend. So it is a market I'm currently looking at. Um, I think going in there now, I can grow with the market, I guess is the best way to say it. So I can go in with the hot tub and with the barrel sauna. And as I make or not make equity, as I gain revenue over the course of years, I can continue to add to my property. I can continue to add amenities to be competitive. I don't need all of them in year 1, But knowing that going into that market, it's going to be valuable to find a home that allows for growth. Find a home that I can add a pole barn. Find a home that has land that I could add more than the basic amenities.
Okay. So here's $1 million question. How are you finding, like, how do you find those markets? Because it feels like everything these days is saturated or really competitive. So you mentioned one, I think you mentioned a good one. So, like, that's good to know. Everyone listening, Red River Gorge. But, oh, she's like, over here.
I'm kidding,
No,
I'm
just kidding.
kidding.
Yeah, no, just kidding. Not Red River Gorge. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, but like, what other markets? How? I mean, we don't need to list out things. I'm sure people would love that, but maybe we'll at the end. We'll talk about that. But what? How are we finding these types of markets out there that aren't overly competitive in your experience?
Some of it is knowing where our friends are vacationing. It's not always the vacation places. You know, when we get those, like, top 10 lists, we all get them. They come in the emails, they, like, blast on Facebook. It's the big e everyone uses them. 'Em. They're easy to throw out, these top 10 markets, top 5 markets, vacation places. But it's really having conversation with people. Like, talk to your neighbor. Where are they going for spring break? Talk to your coworker who's going somewhere for fall break, uh, because sometimes they're the ones kind of indicating some of these markets that maybe we don't know about yet, but they are there. And, um, and you just need to do a little digging. Like, once you kinda hear a new place, like, jump in there, look at the comps. What are those places pulling? Start pulling up the map. What's around it? How close is it to a city? Is it a drivable place? But it just takes the one person to name drop, and then it takes research. That's what it is. It's getting in there and being willing to do a little bit of research and knowing why. I will share my true $1 million answer. One of the things I look for is in my research, I like to know where the money is going, and I'm not talking investor money, like STR investors. I like to know where people such as Johnny Morris, so he's, the Bass Pro owner, where's he buying land? Where's he expanding? He was in Branson. We have 6 golf courses in Branson. We're maxed out. He's brought an amphitheater, a 50-person amphitheater. He's brought golf courses. He's going to continue to grow. Where is he growing? He's growing south. He's going towards Arkansas. Why would you not buy in Arkansas where there's no regulations and you can still get lake view? Like, so I like to know where the money's going. Where is Yeah, there's some big names who've bought in the gorge. I'm not gonna name drop them, but there are some big names who've bought several hundred acres in the gorge. The Walton family out of Arkansas, that's, the Walmart family. They've bought in some land south of Arkansas. So I kinda like to really dig into where are some of these larger investors spending their money and what are they gonna do? Are they adding a theme park? Are they adding an amphitheater? What are they bringing to the area?
Yeah, that's it. That's a really good point. I like that. One thing that I like to do too is look, like, if you're in California or New York or an investor who um is maybe in an area that you don't really have a lot of good options near you or affordable options or options that you're comfortable doing. I think a California or maybe even a Seattle is a really good one, where around them the regulation's tough, the prices are really expensive, revenue's really hard. It's just kind of like, well, where the heck? I don't know anywhere else. I don't know. I've never heard of Red River Gorge, Kentucky, or like maybe I've never even heard of Branson, Missouri before. Um, but the reality is, like, how do you figure out these things? And I think everything is like, just start Googling, use ChatGPT. Where do people pick a city? Because a lot of the underrated markets are drivable destinations. They're not flying destinations. Okay. So if that's in mind, drivable for a lot of people is about 3, maybe 4 hours max. Okay. Now it could be a little more, but you're starting to get in territory where people, like, now you're talking about a day's drive. And if you're wanting weekend getaways and so on, that's 3 to 4 hours max, in my opinion. So where are pick a major city or a city. I love to pick a city that has another major city within also 2 to 3 hours, because usually that population, both of those populations are going to source the same destinations. And use ChatGPT or Google and Google, where do people in these cities travel to? Like, where do they go on vacation? What's the typical places they like to go to? And you'll get a ton of different responses. You might actually get some real data, which would be awesome. But the reality is you're gonna, see some stuff on forums, and you're gonna learn about some new areas that you've never heard of before, but everybody in those markets knows of. Like, so for example, when I was living in Western New York, everybody goes down to, they either go to, Eastern New York, like up in the Adirondacks, or they're going to Central New York, or they're going into Pennsylvania. So, like on Lake Erie, there's actually Erie, Pennsylvania is the name of it. And another place in Pennsylvania called Allegheny. It's like everybody loves to go camping in that. It's like a state park in Pennsylvania, but everyone in Western New York knows those areas. It's kind of like three boom, boom, boom areas that people go to. And so if I'm, a savvy investor and I'm researching that, I'm like, well, what the heck is down there? And you start learning and you start seeing the habits of when people go there and what they go there. Opens up markets and you realize, wow, that's actually an affordable market to be in. Usually they're really affordable. People are driving to these places. The drive-in destinations are going to be more affordable. And normally those markets are going to be very much less competitive. Like competition on a different, it's just not there.
Well, that's what I say. What's great about some of them, and I can think of some of the New York markets up there that when I'm searching it, like, they all still have that mom and pop look. Like, it still looks like grandma's furniture, and so you can. I've already mentioned it once, like, you can go into that market with great design and basic amenities. We're going back to, like, elementary, like fire pit, hot tub, basic amenities, and you're already blowing the others out of the water. And then as you grow your property and you're going to just crush the competition. I love those markets. I do. Um, I think there's such an advantage to some of those smaller markets that we already know have proof of concept. They already are showing that the revenue is there, but where you have that opportunity to kind of scale and build.
Yeah, and I think that Rachel, I did recorded actually a podcast with Rachel yesterday, and she talked about, she used the term runway and used the term growth. I mean, it's the same type of thing, but being finding markets where we're not the last ones in and we're not jumping into the amenities on race. I think there, and this is something that everyone kind of has to accept. If you're going to get into this industry, you do have to make updates to your property. You do have to make changes to your property over time. You can't just, the ideal world, yeah, hot tub, barrel sauna for the next 20 years and we're good to go. Realistically, though, you're gonna have to add other amenities as things come out. That's normal. In fact, I was literally talking to some hotels, and they're like looking at their conference centers, hint, hint. And the hotels were saying that, I was talking to ladies like touring them, and I was like, wow, like your hotel's nice, but this other one, it's like really new, like renovated. And she's like, yeah, and she's like, yeah, we're scheduled to be renovated next year, and we're gonna do this really nice stuff. And I was like, oh well, and I was like, when was the last time you were renovated? Because it doesn't look that old. And she's like, yeah, it was about like 3 years. And so I said, how often do you guys do it? And they said, so typical hotel renovations every 4 to 5 years. And I was like, holy crap. And she's like, yeah, it's like, it's not as big, but it's a pretty big refresh. And then she's like, they'll do like a full gut every like 11 to 13 years. And that's like industry standard. So when I've talked about this concept before, it's like model the masters. In our case, like the STR industry is maturing and following what the hotel industry has already kind of established. What are they doing? They're adapting and constantly they're actually renovating, which is, on another level. And we don't necessarily have to go that crazy, but we should be thinking like that too. What can we do to improve our property? However, avoiding the markets where we're having to constantly spend our cash flow. If you're making 45K on a property, you're dumping it back into the property just to compete and stay ahead of everyone else every single. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
My brain is spinning. Like, I didn't wanna cut you off, but I have so many thoughts. Like, I wanna
Well,
see the
go.
trends
Let's hear it.
when that, like, big, because you said, hotels, it's every 3 years, but their big remodel is every 11. So with short-term rentals, I wanna know the, like, true data. When should we truly do a light refresh or a amenity upgrade? And then when should we do the heavy refresh? Because what I wanna know is, when the heavy refresh occurs, are people doing it or are they getting out? Because from my agent brain and just investor brain, like, if I could time it, knowing, like, someone bought this property this year, so in, I don't know, is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? Is it 8? Like, in what year are they gonna have to go in there and just, like, give it a nice big refresh, and are they still going to do that and hold it? Or would they rather get out and allow someone else to have their headaches? Most people find that as a headache. They don't enjoy a large remodel. Um, so are they getting out? Because that
One thing I've learned in this real estate investing is this. So just everybody listening, Erin was our realtor, helped us find the Kentucky property. So kudos to her. The Frankfurt property that I have. So deferred maintenance is a real thing, but deferred design and decor and deferred amenities, like that is a real thing. So I think it's not a matter of like if, it's just a matter of when you have to, right? It's kind of what you're saying is my takeaway from all this, because that Frankfurt property, it was built in 2007. It was decent shape, but the air conditioning and some of the other things, like I don't want to tell you how much we just spent on replacing air conditioning.
Can I tell you that I took 2 other well-educated, STR investors into that home, because you didn't even get to walk it, right? Like, I'm FaceTiming you, I'm sending you videos. They walked it, and they didn't want it. They saw it before I ever sent it to you, and they passed because of the deferred, and I don't wanna say even deferred maintenance, the deferred design. um, they thought it was ugly. It was a huge house, it was ugly, and so they passed on it.
And that's a vision
Uh,
problem, but I get it. Yeah.
but
I
yeah,
mean,
so
yeah.
but it goes
So
back to, like, some people aren't willing to update in order to stay with the trends and in order and just the financial burden of updating. So, are people doing that in their short-term rentals? That's the question I would love to anyone answer that. Like, what are you doing when your place needs a not just an AC unit or a roof, but, like, when your place needs a full new design? Maybe we need to switch couches and pillows and paint colors. I don't know. Maybe we need new amenities. What are you doing? Are you selling and just buying something different that's already
well, I'll tell you, I just had this happen last year. So I'm a really like I'm a good case study in this. So number one, I think it comes down to return on equity. So like what do you have in the property left over? And if you have equity compared to your cash flow, and if it's a really low percentage, and probably just sell it, and it's not going to be worth dumping in more funds to try to get the cash flow like slightly higher. But if you have really good cash flow and maybe lower equity, or just lower equity, then yeah, if you can improve the property to increase cash flow by a significant amount or a decent amount to maintain or improve current cash flow numbers, then you should update the property and not sell the property. And that's the decision I had to do. I looked at my property. I said, "Man, I am netting. I almost last year I netted almost $80,000 on a property that cost me 350." And I was like, "This thing is pumping out cash, and I have some equity in the property because of the numbers it's doing. I could sell it and maybe make like $200,000, but like $80,000 a year or $200,000 cash today, I'd rather take $80,000 a year." And so, but the property had to be updated. So I said, okay, if I take 1 year of cash flow and I use that to update this property, which is pretty much what I had to pay, a little bit more than that, but pretty much what I paid for the renovation of this property. If I use that, to maintain and improve and hopefully does better, I will theoretically either keep my current cash flow or make more cash flow. I'm currently right now, I got my report yesterday from my revenue manager. I'm making $20,000 more this year so far than I did last year. So it was worth it for me. So I'm probably going to net, let's call it an extra 10K on top. So I'll probably net closer to 90 this year. And okay, well, was the renovation worth it? Abso-freaking-lutely. Also improved the value of the property too, so it gave me more equity. So maybe in a year or two, I will sell it. And I there's supposed to be a resort coming in too. It's not officially announced. I'm waiting for that to be announced, and then I'm going to make my moves. But timing and all these other things could be a piece. But yes, if you don't have the funds to do that, then you might just have to sell. But you know what I mean? There's trade offs for sure. So that's my experience. Everyone's experience is going to be slightly different, or their play will be different based on their situation. So we talked about how you would find markets to invest in if you had $250,000, where you would look, what you look for. Looking at the amenities and your strategy of approaching that. Now, in terms of finding, now, just we can briefly talk about this, but let's say it's a new market. Okay, you're looking at a new market. How are you going about finding the resources like contractors and cleaners and just people to help you pull this project off?
Uh, my first point of contact is the realtor.
Mm, okay.
I've been in those shoes. I've wore that hat. Realtors know everybody. You have to, as a realtor, you have to network. It's your reputation. You start handing out bad contractors, you start handing out bad cleaners, you're going to lose business. So I'd call my realtor first and say, "Who are you using? Who's the known, who's the best contractor? Who's a muralist there who can paint me a big mural?" Uh, I would also lean on any other STR investors that I know, whether it's through Facebook, through masterminds, friends of friends. It's a small but big community. There's a lot of us out there, but everyone knows everyone. So lean on them. They're people are very fast to share a bad experience. They're gonna share a bad one before they share a good one.
Yeah, that's true. There's true. Every time I post like, "Hey, who's got somebody?" They're like, "Well, I've got somebody you shouldn't use."
You'll get a laundry list. Everyone is quick to share because we remember that. It burns, it hurts. And when something hurts, you will not forget it. You're gonna have a scar. The scar's there, it's there for a lifetime. So they will share who not to use. You're not gonna make the same mistake because you're not gonna use that person. So yeah, I would go to friends and see if they've got someone that they either recommend or more so don't recommend in the area. You could maybe, I've not done it. If you had to, last resort, reach out to a property manager. I don't suggest using a property manager because I don't want to lose my 20% to a property manager. But see if they would be willing to share anything. I don't know that they will. Um, but my go-to would be an agent and then local investors.
Yeah, I think a lot of this can be resolved on social media. So Facebook groups, there's Facebook groups for hosts. Also, if you're looking for a cleaner, something Turno is another one you could start. Doesn't mean every cleaner on there is good. You can just get reviews and start there. Um, but for contractors, I would 1,000% go to social media and see who people have used in the area. And then talk to the neighbors, you know? So I think that's a really big one too. I actually got my second round of contractors from neighbors in that property we actually did the renovation with. Because the first round I did a Google search and that did not go well. But they were good guys. They just idiots. Like who doesn't like send in a work order for changes and then the anyway, we can go off on that. But that was I was like, yeah, this is not cool. So the second people were much better, very pleasant experience, like literally the best experience ever. I was like, I didn't know I could have this kind of experience working with contractors. So yeah,
And once you get like the right plumber,
the faith in the industry. Yeah. Go ahead.
once you get the right plumber or the right electrician, they're gonna share with you all you have to do. You just need one. You need
Yeah, that's true.
um, one handyman, one electrician, just one point of contact there, and I promise you they will let you know who they enjoy working with.
Mhm.
These tradesmen, like, they are in and out of these projects all the time. They are dealing with because maybe the plumbing can't be done until the tile's laid. And so they're gonna tell you like, "Hey, this guy was efficient. I saw his work. It was good." Same thing with
Well, yeah, and
electrician.
I think to that point too, like they're also going to be like, I like working with this guy, and this other guy is a knucklehead, you know. So that's what I mean. That's what our GC did. He's like, look, the countertop redid a kitchen. He's like, you can pay me to the countertop, but I'm telling you, this guy, they're going to come in, they're going to be quick, they're going to be cheap, you're going to like it. And this is like he showed me photos. He's like, just give him a call. Sure enough, it was just like boom. And then flooring guy, same thing. He's like, this is the flooring guy. Just use him. Okay, you just follow their lead. So
If you can take one project that you enjoy working with that craftsman, whether it's countertops or kitchen cabinets or bathroom flooring, if you trust that person, lean into his resources, lean into his network, and start there. I would do that over social media, but I'm not a social media person. You can try to go Google me, find me. I don't have a presence. Um, I'm such a people person. I keep saying it, but it's the God honest truth. Like, give me a craftsman, let me talk to him and let me see his work. If I connect with him, I'm assuming I'm going to connect with his network.
that's a good point.
So,
Yeah, I
that's how
like
I
that.
would do it.
Lots of ideas, lots of good ideas here. So, well, Aaron, thank you so much for sharing all this information. Is there anything else you want to add? Any tips or tricks for people who are looking for new markets or areas to invest in for short term rentals?
Start traveling.
Start
Go try
traveling.
it. Go try it yourself first.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. We're my family is like hitting up all the beaches on the North Carolina coast to figure out like which one kind of speaks to us, and then we're gonna go try to find something in that market to have as an asset, but also, and I want to make it an investment. I don't want to just do it like you said. Yes, I want it to cash flow and make money, and but also like a place that we can visit as well, which is kind of the dream. But I've realized though that you do have to know the markets really well if you're going to pull that off, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Take your family on the journey.
take family on the journey. Yeah, except the work trips. So yeah. All right. Well, cool, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. And whether you have $250,000 or not, I don't think that's the point. The point is how we approach searching for markets, searching for areas to invest in based on our goals and our preferences, and then finding the resources we need to pull that off and looking for that runway or that growth in that market. So hopefully everyone enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on the next episode of Cash Flow Positive.